Thank you guys for being here. We're live.
We're already live.
So we are live streaming you all, so you really don't break any rules.
No one's just.
I don't even know what you are. From Kentucky, so it doesn't matter. Okay, guys, thanks for being here today. Come on, Brittany Fiore. You're okay. First of all, I just wanted to introduce Erin. Erin is our guest speaker from Virginia, and she is twin sister to Kelly.
Hello.
Kelly Wyatt. And so, just so y'all know why Kelly is here, and we'll do more announcements later. Kelly is, why are these girls here today? We all want to know how they got these amazing people. So Kelly Wyatt has accepted a position as the general manager of our offices. So she's in town to buy a house this weekend. And so therefore, we got the amazing Erin to come teach a class for us. Sells a ton of real estate. So I just wanted to kind of introduce both of these ladies. Do you want to say?
Hi. Yeah, I'm Kelly. I've been the team leader for Arlington, Virginia office for the last 8 years. And I'm excited to move to Lexington with you guys and help you guys grow.
She's a big deal, by the way. Been a team leader 8 years, and a black belt team leader 6 times. And she's also a mass leadership coach. So she's done a lot of things.
So I recruited about 1,400 people to Keller Williams over the years.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Even our mother. Seriously, it was not KW, so that's a whole.
So we got mom on board. Let's go.
Good deal.
So yeah.
And she, what number? Top 10. Yeah, top 10, but she also she lives and breathes Keller Williams models. She understands the MREA. She knows how to consult on a great real estate business. So I'm very excited to have her here. And like, obviously, these guys are twins.
Yeah.
And they're both extremely successful. Real estate on the leadership side, also leadership, but on the sales side. So we are all getting to participate or partake in a pretty cool day. But our world is gonna get amazingly better also. Yes, Scott McKenzie.
Was just being recorded.
Yeah, yes, no.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
We didn't record. So I apologize for the recording.
So we're so glad you guys are here, and really they just offered to do this class for you because Erin was gonna be in town, and
She took 36 listings this month.
so
wild.
if you do not have pen and paper, my goodness, get your pen and paper or get your notes.
One of them was my house.
You are literally in the, I know, you all know we talk about Peter's debris all the time.
Yes.
She outsells Peter, like, I'm just gonna say that on recording. They matter.
Well, anyway, from there.
So, you guys take it away, you have it, they
Thanks, Dolly.
have the space.
So, you guys don't know me, but I do run a team out of the Alexandria, Virginia Market Center, which is the sister market center of my sister's over there, well, for another week, and then she'll come here. But, I started real estate in 2011. Our parents are actually in real estate in Los Angeles. We didn't really do much, but we got the mindset, we got the entrepreneur mindset from my dad and my mom. Our brother was in real estate for like a year, but then it wasn't for him. He went back to car sales and excelled at that. But so somehow we all ended up in sales. And I started as an individual agent. I joined the team for like 8 months, didn't really work out, but I did learn a lot about building a team at that time. And then I became a PC coach. And I did that for 4 years, and then I realized that I wanted to coach people I wanted to coach, not people that the Market Center told me to coach, which was great. And I learned so much, but I actually really thrive in coaching the people that I want to bring into my world, which is our team now. So I used to run my own team called the Erin K. Jones Real Estate Team. We sold about 2 years ago, we sold, I want to say, about 250 houses. And then I actually joined forces with my best friend's team. He had about similar size team. And so last year, we did about almost 700 transactions total. And our business is up 25% year over year when we merged. So it was a really cool experience. And I mostly handle our admin side. I do coach a lot of agents on the team as well, do a lot of personal. I'll do about 45 million of personal production, and then my team will do the rest. I take a lot of, just about, I'm not working with too many buyers these days, and then I do run our listings management team as well, which we have 3 people on staff for listings, and then we have a 4-person staging company as well. So we do quite a bit, and as my sister mentioned, we're putting 36 listings on the market this month, so it's a bit of an operation, and it's also a bit of like what I do day in and out is either I'm going on my listing appointments or I'm going on my listing appointments with my agents. So everyone's coming to me for pricing or for strategies or for how to sign a listing, things like that. So I'll give you a little bit of that today. I do have a couple questions before we get started. The first one is, what do you guys want to learn today?
How to take 36 listings in a month.
You guys say something?
I was gonna say lead gen.
So how to get them?
Yeah.
Okay. You're gonna write down something for me, Jill? I do. Anything else? That's it?
Can you elaborate on your support staff?
Yeah.
Maybe some of the details on how much you keep in touch, you know, like how much you communicate with your buyers or sellers.
Yeah.
You know, is it once a week or
Sure.
more than that, or is there a certain person that handles that, or does a listing, you know, their age, do that?
Sure.
I'm really interested in the difference in your market and our market, so like ideas that you guys have there. That we can put into.
Yeah, so I have no idea what your market's like today. I'm gonna go house hunting for later, but so I might have ideas tomorrow, but I have no idea today. So I would love to hear, you know, what you're experiencing as well. I mean, I will say that I feel a bit lucky that most of our market is about 1 to 2 months of supply. So we are definitely a seller's market, and we're definitely, if we do it right, you know, usually getting a bit more. And I can talk a little bit about how maybe you could also do that in a little bit, you know, so or more balanced market as well. Anything else? Oh, I would. Yeah, how to get through it, so.
For new agents that are starting, what about getting the leads from expired, canceled, FSBO?
Sure, we can talk about that too. Okay. No. Well, we can start with the lead gen part and we can talk about that a little bit as well. Are you doing anything?
Yes,
Okay,
January.
well, congratulations on one of the business that's changed our family's life, so it will change yours as well if you work hard. If I sent you on 10 listing appointments today, how many would you take?
To start as a new agent. 1, I want to make sure that why is that? Because I want to make sure that I get the support that I need.
So you're saying you would only choose to take 1, or that 1 person would hire you out of 10?
I would just take 10 then.
So 10.
Then I can, yeah.
Okay, well, what you should have asked me is what are the sources of those listings,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if you go on 10 listing appointments with people that don't want to sell their house, you might get 0, right? If you go on 10 FSBOs, that's very big, you might get 0, although I have an agent on my team that does very well, she's one of our highest listing agents, her first listing ever was FSBO. So, I mean, but the source is so important for conversion. So you could meet with sellers all day long that are harder conversion sources and have way less to show for it, right? But if I sent you on 10 of your family members' listings, you're gonna get all of them, right? So first and foremost, when it comes to lead generation, it's really about who you're trying to contact. I mean, on my team, we have 40 agents, we do give out leads, we've got a number of lead sources. We have like internet lead sources, we have Zillow, we have like Fast Expert, I don't know if you guys have that here, HomeLight, stuff like that. So there are a lot of internet lead sources where we have an ISA that converts them into listing appointments. All day long, they want to meet with those people. And I'm like, why? Why do you want to meet with a haven't met person that you have to convince to use you, and they're probably interviewing against 3 or 4 other people? Your gold is in your database. If I go down my lead sources for the last couple of years, almost all of them are repeat clients or past client referrals from clients. So I'm constantly keeping in contract with people that I know. And I know if I knock it out of the park, they're gonna tell all of their friends. I only work with a couple, like not that many buyers, but I have 3 clients right now from an orthopedic surgeon that I've sold 3 houses to. And he refers me to every single person he knows, because he knows that I'm gonna do a good job. So it's like the way you show up is going to make the long lasting career, in my opinion. But, so you can get internet sources paid or referral paid or things like that. And if you don't have anything, I'd say mix that in with your kind of sphere business as well. Open houses are a free way to get sellers. Most people think I'm gonna pick up a buyer from an open house, but it's actually a free way to get a seller. If you're circle prospecting, if you're door knocking, if you're, and I don't know what your HOA rules here or whatever, but we don't have a lot of HOAs where we are, so we can door knock and stuff like that. If you're the nosy neighbor that walks in your open house, it's typically somebody who wants to sell in 2 to 3 years. You find out when their kids graduating from high school, when they want to relocate, and then you nurture them. So being a good real estate agent is not only bringing in the leads and nurturing, or like getting them in your database, which is the most important thing you can do. It's being able to nurture your database at the exact same time. If you can do both, you can bring in new leads and you can nurture, then your database is going to feed you, and then all the new ones are going to pop up every now and then. But so many agents only think the person that this I call or the internet lead or whatever is like the goal, and it's not. It's the nurturing of the people over time. So I partnered with a property manager when I was like pretty new, and I would do anything that she asked. She's like, I need a sign, directional sign in 45 minutes away. I'd be like, I'll do it. She's like, can you go pick up this lockbox in this other city for like 45 minutes the other direction? I'm like, sure. She's like, hey, can you show this tenant this property? I did probably somewhere between 40 and 50 rentals my first year. That's all. I did a couple sales as well. I flipped them into buyers because at the time when rates and prices were lower, you could do that. Now it's a little bit more difficult, but I would take anything. The first company I worked for, they had a property management company. It was not Keller Williams, and they took, so normal tenant pay was 25% of 1 month's rent, which, you know, at the time maybe $1,500 rent, or let's call it 2,000 per round number. So if you get $500, they would take 50% of that. So I'd make $250, but I would just make it over and over again and just build my database that way. And I remember the first day I walked into that office, again, not Keller Williams, the broker was a big Buffini person. She was like, are you gonna be a transactional agent or a relationship agent? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about later. So sell some houses, like, I don't know what you're talking about. But like 2 years later, when I came to KW, I was like, I get it now. I understand now. Now I need to build my database. Because I would never call somebody after closing. I'd be like, they didn't hear from me. Why do they want to hear from me? I already did what they wanted me to do. I got them into a house, or I sold their house. They don't need me anymore. I was in my mind, right? But come to find out, they actually look up to you. They actually trust you. And they actually want your vendors, and they actually want all the things from you, and they want to see you. And so now we do 4 main events, and then we do buyers and seller seminars and some other little events. So probably we have somewhere between 8 and 10 times that I can see a client throughout. I mean, I have a 40,000 person database by the team. So like, I can't go to everybody's house. I can't go to lunch. I can't go to everybody's baby shower, but I can bring them to me. And so that's really important. So anyway, so the lead generation piece. Why do people not lead generate?
They don't want to talk to people.
They don't want to talk to me. I don't want to talk to people. Why else?
You're projecting.
Your projection?
I think it's mostly fear, I think it's mostly fear based. I mean,
So I believe, by 4 years of being a PC coach, I really learned this, and I believe it was 100% true. I believe they're afraid someone's gonna say yes.
I think you're right. Yeah.
So, yeah. So the biggest reason people don't lead generate, and it could be yes because you're a new agent and you don't know what to do, like you're afraid to mess up. And what I learned, so my dad, I've been a real estate agent, he passed away in 2019. Well, when I got my license in 2011 to the beginning of 2012, I would call him. I'd be like, what do I do? He's like, can't even call your broker. And I was like, you're no, but he he would obviously try to help me, but then he would call me. And he'd be like, what do I do? And I'm like, Dad, you're 80 years old, you've been in this for 45 years, why are you calling me? He's like, because you might have an idea I haven't thought of. Or you might know something I don't know. And then I realized that no matter how long you're in business, you don't know how to do it. Because every one of our transactions is different, right? So if you are so scared and you limit what you're going to do based on not having the knowledge, then you're going to become a professional student, not a professional real estate agent. And so don't fall into that trap. And I guarantee you, if one of you took a listing today, you could call someone else in this office and they'll help you. Because that's our culture, right? You can call me, I don't care. But we're okay. But like, that's the thing, is like, don't not do it out of fear. Do it because those people need you. And if you truly believe that you're the right person to help them, then the fear will go away. And when you walk in an appointment and you truly believe you're the right person to help them, I walk in every appointment knowing that I literally will help them better than any other agent in our market. And then they hire me because I have confidence. You know what I mean? The other thing is if you're not scripted role playing here in the office or with your coworkers or whatever, you're actually practicing on the client. And that's a really bad thing. Because if you practice on the client, you're wasting your time and you're wasting their time. Do you guys have like a scripted role play culture here? Team leader?
Working on it. Actively working on it.
Good. I mean, find an accountability partner. If you have an appointment, just practice, 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 and you'll get better. And you know, all of us start practicing on the clients, but it is what it is. So let's talk about kind of how to set an appointment and what we're going to be doing at an appointment. So if you're talking to a seller, what would you normally say to, you know, have a meeting at their house or whatever? Someone give me an idea of like how that conversation goes.
When I go in, I talk, you know, I introduce myself and walk through the house.
No, like before that, if you're talking to them on the phone and you're trying to like set up that appointment, what do you say to them?
I ask them about their family. I ask them about what they're looking for.
Okay,
I do take notes.
so where did the last listing that you took came from? Come from?
Referral.
Referral from another client?
Mhm.
Okay, and so then how did you get introduced to that person?
A referral.
I know, but like what happened?
I'm
Like,
serious. I just,
like, did they just give you the number of the person and say, hey, call my friend? Did they have your friend call you? Like,
they had already called the new people
you were,
and talked to my client without telling me, called them and said, this is who you really need to use, and that's what.
awesome. And then how did they introduce that person to you?
My previous client, or who are we talking about?
How did you get in contact with that last seller?
Most of mine is from referrals.
No, okay, so what I'm saying is like physically the like logistics about how you got in contact.
How did the handoff happen?
Like, did they text you and say, hey, I need to sell my house, so-and-so said that you're a great agent? Or did they?
That's what happened.
Yeah,
I'd never met him until
Okay.
I went over and started talking, and then we were in contract.
okay, so that's awesome. And so when you're cultivating your database and when you're talking to your past clients and when you're, you know, having events or whatever, however you're gonna keep in touch with your database, you have to train people how to treat you and how to refer to you. So all of the people in my database know that I want a text, email, or a text introduction between them and the person that they're referring to me. Because now I have that person's contact information. And so.
Like a three-way?
Yep. So okay, so do business card?
No.
I do, up there, I do. Oh, here we go, alright.
I don't carry on.
So, ask me where this is, we're out at like a store and we find out, I find out you wanted to buy a house and you're like, oh, that's great, and just ask me for this.
Okay, hi, Nancy. I'm thinking about selling and, you know, I'd love to talk to you later. Can you give me your business card and I can
You
find it?
know what? I don't have the cards on me, can I get your number?
Sure.
So even though I do have a card, I'm never gonna give that out, because if I give that out, who's in control of that conversation now? You are. And so we can't count on our client to do anything. Right? No, seriously, because they can't do open house on a Sunday, they wanna sell their house. They never give you their address, and then you get 401 if you don't have 401 through the, do you guys get your 401? Okay, if you don't have 401, don't know that right now. So your board is free, it's great. So if you just give up your card, that card ends up in the driver lane. Right? You've all watched a business card in your pocket? If you haven't, you're not an agent, because like, you know, you come home with showings and you get a card in your pocket, if your hands on drag or washer and it's just getting disintegrated, right? So that's what happens to our business cards. So when you do that, you're leaving your business in the control of a consumer that doesn't care when they actually transact. And I don't know about you, but prices have gone up, let's say, since I started selling, our prices are about double. And if I wasn't in control of a buyer or a seller, well, let's say buyer. Like if I had a buyer that wanted to buy 5 years ago and they didn't have anyone to guide them and push them and actually tell them how to do it, they've lost out on hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. That's my fault. Because they're gonna go take their kid to volleyball, they're gonna go take the mom to the doctor and do this and do that, and they're gonna forget that that was their goal. But if you're in charge and you're telling them, this is the next step, and this is where we need to go, and this is how we're gonna do it. So that starts with the handout. That starts with how you get their contact information. And then once you have their contact information, you're gonna decide your cadence of how you're gonna follow up and when you're gonna follow up. And that's up to you, right? Like text, phone calls. A lot of people don't wanna make phone calls, but you can get a lot more done with a phone call than you can 18 texts for 3 weeks. And you find real motivation.
Is there a certain time you call, you know, it's not when you call in the morning or do you call it? late
So
afternoon?
I moved an hour outside of my market about 3 years ago, in the middle of COVID. And I call on my drive. Personally, I call on my driving and my drive out, because if I know, so what I do is I have a list of like people that I know I need to follow up with, and then I've got my ISA will also send me a list of like leads that she's set for me, or like maybe people that I haven't quite got an appointment with, or she's nurturing or whatever. And then I also have like people that I know I need to sign, I have them pinned in my text messages if you have an iPhone. So like my sister has me, because I'm her sister, but like I don't have my sister pinned, I have my like next listing. But only unsigned ones, once they're signed, they get it. Because once they're signed, they go in my system and I already know, but before they're signed, I put them pinned, so it's like a game. I'm a gamer, I like to like gamify.
Are they always full? Do you have all 9
I
turns?
need more than 9,
Okay.
yeah, that's a problem.
Oh, 9's the maximum?
Yeah.
And what if it gets at that high?
Text messages unread for her.
Yeah. I have more unread text messages, and it's not because I haven't responded or read something, it's because I know I need to like close the loop on something, so anyway. So the other thing is like when we, oh, go ahead.
Do you leave a message?
Oh,
Answer, do you leave a message?
yeah, but I don't tell them why I call,
Oh.
so I'm just like, hey, it's Erin, call back, call back. And they're like, hi. So the other thing is, when you're actually setting the appointment, what do we call that?
Initial contact.
A listing presentation, listing appointment? Forget that terminology.
Needs analysis.
Forget a listing appointment. Don't even talk about a listing appointment ever again. Because that is a term for us. That is not a term for a seller. The seller doesn't understand what that means. And you're almost creating objections if you do that too, right? So if someone calls me, or I call them, or whatever, and they want to sell their house, sometimes I'll give the question of like, what's the next step? And I'll just say, well, you know what, I'll send you the paperwork and then I'll come over next week for a staging appointment. And they're like, okay. why are we creating an objection? They have to interview you if you already like. If you're just telling them what the next step is and that's what they're gonna do, I'm not screwing them. Sorry. I'm not gonna do anything wrong. I'm not a sleazy person. I'm not like, I'm worth my value. Right? So if I know all those things, why is that not a great thing for them? I just saved them time. I've saved everything, and then I do come over and we go through the process. I might bring my stager. I might do it myself, just depends, see if you like that. But you know, we're putting objections in place that don't need to be there, in my opinion. So in COVID, sometimes I didn't see a house until the week it went on the market. Now, FaceTime them or pictures and get contractors over, things like that, but there were some people that didn't want to meet in person at all. And then we just did everything virtually. So, you know, don't think that you have to do it a certain way, or that the client is assuming, don't assume that the client knows your process. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The other thing about the appointment is somebody might say to you, oh, you know, sometimes in the next couple of weeks or a month, or, you know, call me in June or whatever. If you don't treat that as a speed to appointment, just like somebody would have, Gary Keller said, we used to expect a 5 to 10 minute response time for a lead, now it's 30 seconds. Because they can go find something else in the next 30 seconds, right? So if you don't treat that appointment as a speed to appointment, just like you do speed to lead, they will hire someone else. So even if they say, oh, you know, 3 weeks from now, whatever. No, what do you have available this week? And then the same thing is on the follow-up, like if you do not sign a listing in person, you follow up immediately. Because they will, if I interview against 2 or 3 agents every time. And so, not my personal approach, but the people that find us online or that I find sort of prospecting or whatever, I'm usually interviewing against a couple other big teams in our market. So if I don't follow up like that day, that night, next morning, I find out when their next appointment is, I follow up right after that, then they'll have already signed with somebody else.
You normally ask them if they're interviewing other agents, or you just leave?
So absolutely, so when I was a new agent, I thought, but why would I plant that seed in their head? Why would I tell them to go hire or go interview another agent? That's such a bad idea. And then I realized, interview me against somebody else all day long, so I'm gonna do a better job. Like, it's confidence. I don't care, you can interview me against whoever.
Is your staging, is it complimentary, or is there a charge for your,
We'll talk about that. It used to be complimentary, and there's certain instances that it is, but we'll talk about that.
Okay.
So after you set the appointment, not the listening appointment, but you know, the conversation at your house or whatever it is, you really gotta figure out who you're meeting. So obviously, the good old Facebook, Instagram search is a good place to start, right? They might have something going on in their life that they're talking about online. If you don't know that, and I'm not like walking to the point like, hey, on Instagram, you said that you're getting divorced. Probably a bad idea. I've been in plenty of appointments where I find out after the initial appointment they're getting divorced.
Were they looking together?
No, I got this thing appointment. Well, not that does not work, but the appointment was to consult them about their house.
And they showed up together?
At their house.
They
were divorced. Oh,
That's
yeah,
uncomfortable.
I know. And then one will call me after and be like, so we're getting divorced. Like, okay. Now, if you do have divorces, all communication together at all times. Do not talk to one spouse without the other. And usually group texts or.
Do you find that it's better to have a digital trail of conversation?
It's not that it's like a paper trail, it's just more that one of the spouses will get really angry if they find out that somebody knew something before. Like, I had a situation a couple years ago, it was like a $2 million house, which is above my average sale price, but they're getting divorced and the husband was still living in the house, but the wife wasn't. So like the whole week before, we're usually in and out of the house with staging or contractors or whatever. And a lot of information was just happening in the moment, like at the house, and she lost it. I mean, she was so mad. and I'm like, well. There was things that he's asking when we were in person, and it wasn't just like me, but like team and stuff. So it's just like, you really have to be careful about those situations and say, hey, you know what, I'll answer all your questions, but let's have a hop on call, so this evening. Because even if you're, you know, around that person or whatever. So, you know, the other thing to look at is like, you know, forewarn, big one, you know, if our ISA forewarns every appointment that we send our agents on, because there are some of these we will not send an agent out there. You guys all know what it is?
Not used it, I've only heard it.
So it's a background check app, you can see how much speeding tickets somebody has, sometimes it's worse than that. You can actually see if somebody's in bankruptcy or foreclosure. And so sometimes they're afraid to tell you that as well.
All you need is the phone number.
Yeah,
So if you
Do
don't
your
have a lead, put it in forewarn, you know, especially. You know, if, doesn't matter man or woman, but if you're going out to a house by yourself. You wanna know who you're meeting.
yeah,
There's
Now
too
that-
many scams that happen these
yeah.
days too, to not use it.
Even if they've signed a hire agreement over Zoom or something, you just, you don't know what they're, yeah.
And you said it was forewarned?
forewarn,
I have the app, it's really nice.
Like FORE.
Yeah, FORE warrant, it's all one word,
You get it through.
FORE,
And
yeah.
we have it through grass realtors.
Really.
Yeah, and it's a great app because, so honestly, kind of. Like such out people's lives, like you're like, oh, actually you had a bankruptcy 6 months ago. Well, do you want to spend a much time and try to qualify that person? Probably not. You know, as a buyer or whatever. So it's a great app. I also, when I'm prepping for a listing appointment, I'll also, and it sounds so stupid, but I'm gonna go on Zillow and Redfin and look at the automated value. Why am I doing that?
It's a consumer good.
Because the seller thinks that's what their house is worth when you walk into their house. So if you're not aware of what the online values that they're looking at are, you might walk into a conversation that they're completely off base or you're completely off base, right? I've been to many listing appointments where I do not bring the comps or net sheet out of my bags. Because if that seller thinks their house is worth way more or way less, and I brought comps that support something completely different, and maybe I didn't know something about their house, or maybe I just need to have more time to convince that person that that's not the case, right? So it's not a one size fits all appointment. It's really being able to mold in the moment with where you need to take it, and also like what information you're gonna give them, and it might be a 2 or 3 step process before you can get on the same page as that seller or get them down to earth or whatever it is, right? And then like, something really important too is like, have they listed their house before and been unsuccessful? Right? And then also like, I don't know if you have like, I use, what is it, RPR? Okay?
We have our.
So RPR has really good mortgage records on there, so our MLS is like not that good at that kind of stuff. Public record data on our MLS is not great, so I go to RPR and I'll pull the mortgage record data, and if I think that they're in a short sale situation, or if I think that like, you know, they're trying to price up here because they owe this or whatever, like I need to know that I'm walking into that. If I walk into an appointment all excited and everything's great and we're gonna have this great transaction and it's a short sale, that I'm not gonna get hired. Because that's not the mindset that they're in. And I need to have a tough conversation with them. Or, I mean, we don't have a lot of foreclosures because we have a lot of equity in our market, but we do have people that are facing foreclosure because they had a situation and they need to sell. And so that appointment, just like a divorce or something else, it's really important to be self-aware of what you're about to do. Oh gosh, I sold this house to this young girl there's a county a little bit south of us called Prince William County, and they have a first time home buyer program where they can get 33% of the down payment covered like as a silent second trust. And so I helped her buy this townhouse for like 200,000, I want to say 2014, 15 maybe. And I was friends with her on Facebook and I saw she got married, and then she called me and said, I want to sell my house. And I assumed she's getting married, she wants to buy a house with her husband and rent the townhouse or sell the townhouse or whatever. And it turned out that her husband actually put a bunch of bullet holes in her townhouse and was in jail, and she needed to sell the house because she was just been almost murdered in her own house.
Oh.
And I walked up to her and was like, oh. She's like, yeah. No, I'm not saying I could have figured that out.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is your demeanor or what you're entering into, because I probably couldn't have figured that out, like just in the situation.
I wanted you guys.
Yeah, I'm not gonna do all that. And I, the last thing I saw on Facebook was wedding pictures, right? So like, but just what I'm trying to say is be hyper aware of somebody else's like demeanor and don't just do what you always do, right? Ask, how are you? Sometimes how are you can lead into, oh, well, let me tell you about.
Yeah, when they say I'm getting divorced, is that good or bad?
Yeah. Don't say I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I would say, listen, I'm sorry or a congratulations.
And then if they've listed their house before, like, maybe they were unsuccessful, like I had a listing appointment with somebody that listed their house for 300,000 a year ago, and they were unsuccessful at selling, it would expire, and then, oh, now it was actually worth 350. So they were convinced their house was not going to sell, and I'm like, so where do I temper the pricing there, or where do I set their expectations? I'm not gonna oversell it because there's a reason the house didn't sell last year at this price, but I know it's probably worth more. It's probably due to the presentation or position it in the market.
Have you ever walked into a house that's just in such bad shape, whether it's a hoarder or?
Yeah, I buy
You don't. Do you know, well,
Bye.
I'll talk about that
I
too.
mean, if they're looking for market value, like how do you, I mean, if it was on the market before. And you can tell that they didn't put any effort into getting it even market ready, like how do you address that, what is it?
You just have to pick the right price. I mean, everything's gonna sell for the right price, right?
Well, what they think is the right price based on whatever.
Well, okay, so.
Yeah.
So what I would tell you is I'm in the business of selling houses, not listing houses. So I'm only going to enter a relationship that I know will be successful. Because if I enter into relationships that are not successful, I've wasted my own time and money, and now I have clients that hate me. Or non-clients that are customers at that point that didn't work out, right? And that doesn't sound like a good business model. So I had a listing, was interviewing against a couple large chains, funny enough, team that just stayed on the but anyway. And the listing was, probably market value was about 1.3. And he said, well, Bruce told me I could get 1.5. And I said, that's fine, he can bring the buyer for 1.5 when we're on the market for 1.3. And the seller went, you're right. I said, if he can get you 1.5, he can bring that buyer, we'll have a successful straight transaction, it'll be great. Let's do it. And he hired me. Because I don't buy listings. I sell them. And I'm not going to take a listing that doesn't sell. And you have to make that choice. We're not in the business of just wasting our time. We're not in the business of getting bad reviews. So if you're not on the same page with a consumer, you need to be able to walk away and go find a consumer that you can get on the same page with. And if you don't have that confidence, you're gonna be wasting a lot of your time. Who here's listed a house that didn't sell? Was it any fun?
No, it's on.
It's not, so don't do it. I've done it, done plenty of times. I'm listening right now that. Well, I'll sell it eventually, but they just don't have the money, and I know that if anyone can sell it, I will, but. I chose to enter into that relationship for various different reasons, but like, it's a tough spot, it's in the middle of Northeast DC, which is not a great market right now, and it's not safe, and it's just not, like DC, nobody's buying houses. DC's been flat since 2019, and then we've got chaos going on, so it's like. Yeah, it's not fun. So I try to stay out of DC, but I'm licensed in DC, if you know anybody who's bar in DC. Maryland, Virginia. So the other thing, you mentioned like asking if they're interviewing other people. Yeah, so I absolutely do, because I do not want to be blindsided with that as well. And I want to know if I'm first or last. If I'm last, I'm pushing really hard for them to sign right then and there. If I'm first, I still might. I can use the old Diana script of like, I'll call them and let them know or whatever. I'm asking still, but I wanna know what their plan is, right? We had a seller, one of my agents, they posted online on Facebook in like a community group and said, I'm interviewing agents and I have time slots from 9 to 5 on Saturday. She went, she might get it actually, but I would wanna know that. I walk into appointments, there's other people there. I'm like, cool. Back in the story was like,
Yeah.
we were hanging out with some friends last night, and Patrick was like, the weirdest listing we've ever been on is when the other agent was being interviewed at the exact same time. It was-
How do you handle a situation like that? Just roll with it?
Oh, yeah. Just roll with it. I'll talk to them too. Just-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Turn it into a conversation.
yeah. That was weird. So when I'm having my pre-qualifying call, I'm gonna ask them what they've done to the home, right? That's pretty basic thing. But sometimes people will bring up things that will really key you into condition. So if they're like, I replaced the toilet seats. You know that that's probably original condition, they probably haven't done much else. If they're like, well, I have a brand new microwave.
We're taking it.
They replace their microwave, they only replace things when they have to, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really cluing you into how to do the comps or what kind of condition you're gonna walk into, and they might think their house is perfect, especially if they're. I wanna say not original owners of my market, because our house is built in 1942, but like, you know, they've probably been there, like, lived in the same condition, and I'm saying, hey, I'm looking at pictures from when you bought it, tell me what's different. And sometimes you'll be surprised, because I had an agent call me, she's like, my father-in-law needs to sell his house and it's ready to go, no staging needed, and he was like 88 years old, and I was like, we'll see about that. And then I walked in and I was like, oh, I can sell this house right now, and I did 11 offers on it, and it was the most beautiful house I've ever seen. And not really, but in that market for that price point. But so sometimes you just don't know whether or not that person is on, like what you're considering a condition versus them. So I sometimes walk them through like pictures, hey, look at your kitchen from when you bought it, tell me what's different. And then, like I said, if they only say the microwave or the dishwasher, those are very common, the two things that they'll say in the kitchen. And then you know that like the original or my countertops are still there or whatever. What?
This is it work, yeah.
Exactly. Sorry. I also asked them what is important about the agent they choose. Because not all clients are for me. Right? And if it's that they get way more money than it's worth, I mean, I could do that with the right strategy. Like I did that for my sister just now. But if they're not trusting me with that strategy, or we're not on the same page, or they're looking for something that I'm not, which I could be a lot of things, then, you know, it might not be something I want to, like, I might refer it to another agent. Do it all the time. I mean, luckily I have enough people on my team that are different, but like, it could be a good question to ask before you show up on the frame. Talk about that, I haven't done this, however, there's an agent in my market does a really cool thing. He does an Instagram and Facebook ad in their community before he goes on the public appointment.
Oh, I like that.
So now they've seen either your face or your name, they think you're the local expert. He spends like $25, does it for a few days, right targeted over their community. Yes.
He does what? I'm sorry.
Like a
social media ad.
Oh.
And he targets the neighborhood, so it shows up in their newsfeed before he gets to the appointment, so they see his marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so a couple things when you're going to the appointment. First and foremost, get there early, obviously. But I don't get there early to knock on the door early, I get there early to drive around the community. And I get there early to like absorb what I see, right? And I do this with buyers too, but like sometimes I'll be showing a property, I know it very well, it's like a 3-hour radius, people are like, where's this house? They'll show me a picture, I'm like, oh, it's on this street, I'm just kind of good like that. But sometimes I don't know every street and sometimes I don't know everything, so I'll walk around or I'll drive around and I'll look at where the parks are, where the school is, where the grocery store is, all those sort of things. And so when buyer shows up, I'm like, oh yeah, you're just 2 blocks from the park, and they're like, where are they? I'm like, I just learned that 2 seconds ago, but I'm repeating what I see and concreting the fact that like, you know, this is what they're looking for. So same thing with the listing. So Also, I tend to preview properties that are nearby before I go on the appointment as well, because they're gonna know the house with the blue kitchen and why their house is better, if you've never been inside, you don't have that knowledge, and they're the expert, not you.
Well, NAR tells us the number one thing somebody wants in an agent is a local expert, the neighborhood expert.
And I'm not saying, you know, go puff about how you could be the local, no, but go learn anything that you possibly can in the moment, right? Like you can gain more knowledge if you just spend that extra time and dive into what's around there. And then the comps, like if you're previewing the comps, you can be like, yeah, that kitchen, oh, it was so terrible, did you see the crack and the caulking and the this and the that? And then they're like, oh, you know the market. And if you've never walked through that house, they went to the open house last Sunday and you know that house. So if you're just looking at pictures and but you can bring something else to the table because you just walked through it. Now, if you're scheduling a showing for yourself to preview a property, please, do you have showing time? Schedule an agent preview. Do not schedule a show. Because that'll piss a listing on agent off. I'm sure you'll, if you have listings and somebody does that, and you're like, my sellers just got out of their house with their 3 kids and their dog, and we didn't know there was no fun in it. Don't do that. But schedule an agent preview from, obviously if the house is empty or whatever. Even better, just call the agent. Hey, can you tell me about why your house is still on the market? I have an appointment nearby, but they're gonna help you. I mean, hopefully, not all of them, but hopefully they'll help you. And then make it easy for them. Like, this goes for anybody. If you're calling somebody and you have a conversation and you're asking them for more information, you better text them or email them after that call. Right? So like, if I have a listing on the market and I'm getting inundated with calls from buyer agent and they have a question and they don't ever call me back, all I have, and I'm driving around, I have to try to remember which phone number that was and who wanted that information. And they might think I'm never getting back to them, but I just couldn't write it down at the moment and they didn't follow up with any kind of text or in writing. Does that make sense? So if you're going, agent, just no, she's not responding, she just did that. Well, maybe they got 10 other calls that hour and they don't remember which number was asking, whatever. So just follow up with text and say, hey, my buyer's toured one week in Main Street, we really need the agent to when you get a chance. We just got on the phone and because I'm always gonna be more respectful. I'm gonna respect record. I'm gonna be respectful, the agent that writes an offer. But if you're very professional and you are very like squeaky wheel in some ways, I'm always gonna it's gonna be easier for me to get you information and help you write that offer.
Yes, pause the record. You better believe when the team leader of the local market center sold her house that the agent representing mattered. Of who we chose, right?
Oh yeah, we didn't
The
choose that.
client, and that was my choice as a seller. To choose what I knew was gonna get to the closing table.
Yeah,
So they didn't know reputation mattered as much as it did.
yeah. So, I don't dress up very much, this is about it. Yeah, tell the story. So, my sister and I used to live together, and,
Yeah.
You're allowed to answer the phone if it makes you money.
yes.
Yeah. That's what that from Jason Abrams.
That's fair. So we used to live together and I was leaving the house one morning, it was like 9 o'clock on a Saturday, and she's like, where are you going? I'm like, I'm going to a listing appointment. She's like, you need a jacket. I'm like, because I was wearing
Like jeans and a t-shirt, right?
a t-shirt, like blouse-ish. So maybe a t-shirt, I don't know.
70 people.
So she's like, you need a jacket, and I'm like, it's like a $2 million house, guy. So I'm like, no, I really want to wear a jacket. She's like, you have to wear a jacket. So she goes up to her closet, she brings the jacket down, she's like, here, put this on. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what's this house? And it was a personal like portal, and I was like, I got this. And I go to the listing appointment and they're in their pajamas. They're in their pajamas.
Oh.
And I'm like, hi, I'm Erin. I felt super uncomfortable.
Sorry, I'm overdressed.
I was overdressed because you forget you're making someone in their home.
Yeah.
They're not going to their job. They're not going dressed up anywhere. They're typically in casual clothing, right? Like I do not do a lot of multi-million-dollar business, but few here and there. And I had this client who I sold a few houses to, we were shopping and then like high ones for their next house. And she's like, I have to see this house right now, and I just got home from the gym. And I was like wearing, my yoga pants and whatever, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna put on slacks, and I'm just gonna change and take a quick shower, whatever. So I do that, I show up in a little bit nicer clothes, and she was wearing exactly the same thing I was wearing when I changed, and I'm like, so I mean, this is like, be authentically yourself, right? So I didn't get that listening women, they went with someone else. I'm not blaming you.
How long ago?
Myself, I felt uncomfortable, I wasn't able to just like be myself in my own skin, and it's not because they were wearing pajamas or whatever, but. That may have not been the reason, okay, but I know I wasn't feeling my best, right? So if this is what you wear every day, that's what you should wear every day. Like, you should just be yourself, because they're not gonna hire, it's not gonna happen, trust me. It's really not, they're gonna want to know what comes out of your mouth. And what's in your brain. So, and of course, what you tell them that is price, please. Do not ever show up to a listing appointment without a listing agreement. Have you done that?
20 years
Have it
ago.
in your hand,
Huh?
have it in your hand.
Like, have it with you on you.
Yeah.
Because the worst possible outcome could be, they say, where do I sign? And you're like, I'll send it over to you. And if you do send it over to DocuSign, which is fine too, I don't know, some disclosures are hard or whatever, we don't have a lot of disclosures we are, but tell them specifically what to do. Don't just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna get a link and I'll talk to you later. Hey, when you get that link, go ahead and review. I want you to click here, and when you're done, I want you to hit finish. We're the authoritative figure in this relationship, right? It's like, I don't know if you guys pick up buyers with open houses, but we do, it's about 10% of our business. And buyers at open houses are literally like, please someone help me, I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to see a house other than just go to an open house. They're lost little puppies. So they are literally begging someone to walk them through the process. And the same thing, sellers, a lot of sellers are first-time sellers. They don't know what to do. So if you are the authoritative figure and you're telling them what to do, that's what they're hiring you for. And we get in our head that they're in charge. That they make the decision. It's not true. We are in charge. We decide what to do. I learned this early on. My dentist was a family friend, my ex-husband, and he hired me to sell one of his rental properties. And the appraisal came along. And I was like, okay, well, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do that. And he just said, Erin, when I put my hands in your mouth and we're talking about your teeth, I'm gonna make decisions. And you're my real estate agent, so you tell me what to do. And I was like,
I like that.
all right, fair enough. But I learned in that moment that even people that are up, that you might look up to or think they're better than you or this or that, they still look at you as the advisor, especially people that are in, doctors, lawyers, and, the people that have a busy job or they're looked at as an authoritative figure, they want you to stand up the same way in your role. Or also do it themselves, right? So just know that, like, you can do this, you are their advocate, you're not gonna steer them wrong. And you have the confidence almost immediately that you're gonna go and take the listing. So at the appointment, I don't know, we have, I'm gonna be here for a while. So,
Which I might want to see in a little bit,
I'll try to get through. I'll just give you some nuggets.
yeah.
Do not be a negative agent, be excited about their house. They might have painted it hot pink, be excited about it. Now, we'll get to the point where they have to repaint it, but be excited to be there. Do not be, unless it's of course like some other financial situation or whatever, but do not go in there and be like, this shit, what's this water stain and what's this and what's this? They don't feel automatically that you're not there to support them or whatever. Ask them about what they know that they need to do to their house. So usually I do start out with a tour of the house, and if they have a little child, I will ask the child to give me a tour. not only does it distract the child or keep them kind of engaged, it shows the parents that you are like looking at the whole family. So I'll be like, hey Billy, why don't you show me your room and show me the house and your playroom and this, and then they just tour me around the house. And then as we go, I'll ask the parents like, can you guys point out the things that you already have on your list that you need to do? And by the time they're done with that, they're probably gonna be fairly close. I'm of course going to have notes on like what else we're gonna do. I also have a AI recording device that I can record the entire appointment and it will summarize the to-do list. It's called Plod, P-L-A-D, yeah. P-L-E-D. Now I do ask them if they're comfortable with that or not.
Do you find that you have to buy the, extra summarization?
It's like $20 a month.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
How do you spell that again?
P-L-A-U-D. So I would rather be present instead of taking a lot of notes, but I learned also that I have the handwriting of a doctor. So I also have like severe ADHD, so I will have 18 different notebooks and I don't know where any of them are. Or here I wrote down, I have like 13 bold binders or bold things, and I'm like, gosh, I don't even know which one I wrote the notes in or who I talked to or whatever. So what I learned is I have to take notes on my phone because I always have my phone on me. It's never too far from me. So if I have notes on my phone, I always know where it is. And so I just use my notes app and then I can share that with people. Like I will text a notes app with the photos and the notes of the contractor work and stuff to my listing coordinator. And then she knows kind of what's going on or what the house will need and stuff like that. All right, so let's see, I'm trying to speed this up because I don't know that much time. Have you guys ever heard the saying that the more they talk about themselves, the more they like you?
Yeah.
I learned that over time, but it's not perfect because I do talk a lot, but listen to them. Ask them, where are you going? What's your plan? When would you like to be there? In an ideal world, and when you ask them when you'd like to be there, I usually break that down even further. Like I just say, hey, if we could also just snap our fingers and everything was ready to go or everything happened in your timeline, what would that look like? Because if you don't kind of eliminate all the distractions, they will say something different. Because they don't think that it can happen. So they're gonna be like, well, I mean, August, I guess, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, but why August? And they're like, well, I mean, I know I need to paint, that's gonna take a month and a half, and I gotta do this. So you just gotta say, and if we could all handle everything for you and everything was done, when we can speak, and they do it tomorrow. Like, okay, that's what the real motivation is, right? But if you ask them and they don't eliminate all the work that it takes to get there, they're gonna stress that on. So you gotta get to like what the actual answer is. Let's see, okay, so we'll talk about the staging, so that's not that. So I do have a staging company that has always been free to my clients. However, it's free because we charge 3.5%.
Answer.
So it's not really free. I mean, we're collecting our full worth and we're including services. And so we also have a renovate not pay later program that we pay personally, which I know Keller Williams has a similar program as well. So we used to do that for free as well, because if you charge interest, you're a lender, and that's a whole complicated thing, you don't want to do that. But what I learned is, I had a client that bought 4 houses for their family members with me, and they were all in cash, and I saw the bank statement of $20 million. He was a doctor in the country, anyway. And they ended up, the house that his parents lived in, they sold that, and they ended up borrowing $30,000 from me for the renovation. I brought our listing packets because it's in here, and they're like, oh, I can take advantage of that program, and it was free, so why wouldn't I? Oh, and you, I saw here in your packet that we can reimburse you at closing. And so now you have a fee because, no, I'm serious, it's not, yes, we'll make money with the fee, but it's more so to curb the unnecessary. So the other thing is like we used to clean every listing. Like we used to pay for cleaners for every listing, and you can do that when you're, the profit margin is bigger, but at my size team and stuff, the profit margin is much lower. And we still do clean every listing, but I tell the sellers to pay for the cleaning. And they just want me to arrange it, they don't care about the money. And more importantly, they don't care about the money that comes out of proceeds. So we can wrap that up into the renovate now to later.
She may be signing documents that don't have a house professionally clean. I never suggested Jack again.
Yeah. So we can have an agreement that goes over before our stagers enter the house, and it talks about like, a little liability stuff, what are insurance covers, all that stuff. But it's got two things on there that are important, it does say that the seller has to have their house professionally cleaned before we show up. And then it also says there's an automatic, well, not automatic, they can check yes or no, so there's an automatic reimbursement up to $200 of day, what we call day of staging items. These are gonna be things like light bulbs, switch covers, return grills, things that we can easily switch out. That don't really cost, like, they're not like licensed contractor things, but like, you know, or kitchen cabinet knobs. Like if you've got brass cabinet knobs and everything else looks great, we're gonna swap those out for you. So the seller is choosing yes or no, that we are automatically authorized to make changes up to $200 or not. And if they say no, it's not that we don't do it, it's that we get their permission the day of staging. We run each thing by them essentially. And 99% of the time they opt for the $200 and say do whatever you want. So we used to do that for free too. But now we get it reimbursed at closing. If that makes sense. Or let me see. So yeah, a lot of sellers, I'll compete against people that say like, oh, you can just do virtual staging. So for me personally, I don't like virtual staging because virtual staging doesn't cover up the palette that's slightly crooked or whatever. Like buyers are looking at everything, and if there's nothing else to look at in the house, they're zeroing in on every little thing. Like even in a new construction house, there's a lot of new construction around here, the walls are not plumb, they're crooked, right? And so it is what it is. I mean, sometimes builders just did a really bad job. But the house might settle a little bit or whatever, doesn't mean the house falling down, doesn't mean there's a disclosure issue, doesn't mean any of that. It's just the buyer's eye is gonna get distracted by those things that don't really like, you know, affect the whole thing, that they're gonna feel like, oh, that outlet's crooked, well, the whole house is crooked, you know, whatever. So staging is really important to us. And then, I used to just spout off this stat just randomly, because that's what I did, but I actually went and looked at the numbers. So 65% of our listings do not have home inspections.
How's that happen?
Do you do pre-inspection?
No, why would we do that? In our state, we're buyer beware, so we would never want to discover something ahead of time that we are ignorant to. But that's just where we are. I don't know what your disclosure laws are here. Why is that? Because the house looks so good, the buyer's confident that the house is good. And most of our listings do get it. I mean, it's, I literally verified the stat before I said it today, 65%.
Yeah, so we listed my house last weekend, yeah,
Yeah.
and we got 4 offers, all of them on inspection.
All of that, is that what you said?
Well, in fact, only one of the offers had one contingency. And the one contingency was an appraisal, like, they would only guarantee the appraisal up to a certain amount.
It is a different market, however, the pricing and the strategy going into it is what, right?
Does that.
So in our market, if you overshoot the price, you're sitting on the market. If you price under, you're getting multiple.
Yeah, we've been having probably over the last 12 months an issue locally. In what we're taking listings at and ultimately what we're selling. There's.
Except the one I wanted 2 weeks ago. Right, Molly?
Yeah. So, but the interesting is we're still sitting at about 96.5%
Yeah.
list to sell.
That's exactly where PC is.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're usually, yeah, it depends on the agent.
And actually a lot of our releases recently have been because of inspection.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our market is
Does have a
15%,
yeah.
15% fall rate.
Much more on the lower price and it's a lot higher.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm someone trying to do
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the reason that, so there's a couple reasons we can talk about pricing next, so staging. The way that we make the house look. We're typically the gem of what's available. And that doesn't mean every house, I always tell my agents, because they're so used to listing pretty houses, I'm like, we don't always have to list pretty houses. Sometimes we list houses appropriately priced for condition, and that's okay. But if there's little things that we can do, I mean, there's so much that can be done with a handyman in 5 hours that
They're
people just don't do.
consulting that, right? So the key is like work, and then they're handling it, like me as a seller, like I have a full-time job. I go to an office every single day as a team leader right now, and I work a lot. And so the stress of selling my house was huge for me. And I don't sell houses every day anymore. And so she's like, the contractor's coming at this time, this is what's going on, so-and-so's gonna be, like, all of that to me was huge. Because I would have been like, I'll sell it in 2 months, I can't do it right now. Huh?
So can
I almost wanted to pay her, but. She did so much, but almost.
My first meeting with them, I really try to figure out who's the decision maker in the
Yes.
family.
Yeah.
That's big.
Yeah.
But I go through the house and I discuss like what I normally do. I do a lot of this, it actually is staging. So like if there are rugs in the room that I know the photos, that rug is gonna make that room look smaller. Because it's a certain shape, rug or size, that sort of thing.
So staging does not have to be all
Yeah.
furniture, right? Staging is creating an environment. So I have an art degree, actually, a theatrical design degree. All of, in lighting design,
Okay.
all of my light bulbs on my listing is the exact same color. How many light bulbs are replacing your
A
house?
lot.
I gotta reveal bulbs and take them to them.
So,
Because in certain color cabinets and stuff,
yeah, you're like, oh, just replace that.
the yellow bulbs just don't work.
Well, you have to find the medium, so you don't want full reveal like the cool tones.
Right.
Because people are gonna associate that to like a fluorescent light bulb in their doctor's office. You do want the slightly warm, like natural tone. You definitely do not want to go too drastic, and then you have to look at the paint color as well.
Right.
So we did go a little too white on her kitchen, and then we realized that it made the kitchen cabinets look a certain color, we actually changed them all out.
Contractor was.
Yeah, it's okay. They do what I want. They do what I want because they keep their business going, but it's fine. So staging is not just, okay, I'm gonna bring in furniture, and if you don't have any money to do that or whatever, it's totally fine. It's literally, I'm going to make your house look a little bit better so that what I say is I'm minimizing the distractions. I'm minimizing what things people could look at to then start picking apart the house, right? So I'm just nitpicking every little thing. Your house never looked better. Should have done it years ago. So then after we walk into the house, I do throw a little bit of this stuff to kind of get them prepared for the conversations we're gonna have, but I don't throw it all on them at once and say, we have to repaint your house. Like, we'll get there, and I might actually do that, like, I'll drip a little bit of it and say, well, let's get a painful, let's talk a little bit about what we might want to spend, budget is, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then we usually sit down at the kitchen table. And when we're at the kitchen table, what's the first question they ask you?
What's your commission? Yeah.
It's usually the same. The first question is usually, how much is my house worth? And then I'm gonna have a conversation with them about how that really depends. What are you willing to do? Or we might want to get on the same page about like what changes we're gonna make or how many buyers we can appeal to. And then I'm gonna give them a general range. I feel comfortable saying that in that moment. The worst thing you could possibly do is have a price in your head before you get there. The house doesn't match what you're saying, and then you still say the price you thought. Up or down, that's the worst possible thing you can do. It is okay to say to a seller, this is my first time in your house, you know what? I know the market and I'm gonna go just crunch the numbers a little bit more and I'm gonna give it to you. It's totally fine. I don't know if you're allowed to do this as a broker here. I sign listings with TBD in the price.
So. So the price is a legal, it is a material term to the contract, so it's not a fully executed listing agreement, however, they've signed and been committed to working with you, so you can opt out there.
My brokers don't really like it, but I do it when I have to because. So the whole point of that is I'll either do TBD, I'll make sure we're in the same ballpark, like I'm not gonna do that if I'm gonna have an argument later, we're gonna be totally like off base, because then again, this goes back to the conversation about entering your relationship we don't want to be in. But I'm also gonna tell them that we are going to look at the pricing the week we go on the market. So I know in COVID, I don't know what your market was like, but in COVID, sometimes I saw properties that our property disclosure was signed in October and the house went on the market in May. And in May, the price was $100,000 more. And I'm like, why is that house so underpriced? Oh, because they priced it back in October. So I always tell them, hey, we're gonna revisit this because, especially right now, like in the GC market.
We decided an hour before we went on the market with.
Yeah, like I have no idea what the market's gonna be like next week. Is the stock market gonna crash again? What, what's gonna happen, right? So I'm gonna tell the seller, hey, we're gonna get on the same page, we're gonna kind of be in the ballpark, but we're not gonna pick the actual price until the week we go on the market. Because the week we go on the market, we can actually see what other buyers are touring against us. And so we want to position ourselves so well against what the competition is. So if we're at the 500 mark and there's another house at 505, 510, which you never do that. Then we might want to be at 500 or 499 or whatever the strategy is at that point. And they're like, well, but that house is worth 505. Why am I not at 505? Do you want an offer and not pay your next 3 mortgage payments, or do you want to sit on the market like they have been? And so I also rely pretty heavily on bracket pricing as well. So like that 500 mark, I almost would never go to 499. I'd be at the 500 because I don't know why that is.
You should get people looking 500 over.
Yeah.
And up to 500.
So who has like Redfin or Zillow on their phone, or maybe the KWF? Anybody?
I do.
So pull it up.
Looking at houses in an hour.
So pull it up. Anybody have a listing sheet about?
Yes, please.
So if
Yeah.
So this is Zillow. And she has a filter on here that says 800 or less. But then we could also flip it to 800 or more. And if you're at 799 and she said 800 or more, or 800 million, it's not that much, so cheaper listings, cheaper. Like you're gonna miss out on those buyers, right? So especially like 500,000 million, 300, like at the hard numbers, you want to be in both brackets, right? And so like, let's say there's a situation where you actually started too high. It could happen. It's happened to me a lot. No, just kidding, not a lot, but it happens. So at that point, the seller is frustrated, right? They didn't sell their house. They have a new construction that's closing in 2 months, and they're like, "What are we gonna do?" And so you're gonna say 2 things. Well, Mr. and Mr. Seller, we could wait for more buyers to enter into the market in this price range and hope that they start their tour and pick us, or we can drop to the next bracket down and find new buyers that are currently shopping the market. Which would you prefer? That gets them to do what they need to do pretty much immediately. Because I don't know about you, but I want to find a buyer that's going out for agent today in the price range, right? That's motivated, ready, right? Otherwise, I gotta wait for the new buyer that's gotta go through 60 houses before they find the one they like, and then that's gonna take the whole time that we just spent a couple more mortgage payments on.
What are your thoughts around bracket? Like what is your?
Yes, I'm always gonna do bracket pricing. The only reason I'm not gonna do bracket pricing is if I'm like firmly in the middle, like I will do a 374, 900 or whatever, like I'll do that, because usually they're in $50,000 brackets. If you go to really low prices, they are in 25, depends on the website, but I'm almost always gonna do bracket pricing.
So that's 50,000. So if you added 500, you dropped it to 450, or generally.
No, not if it's like truly worth 500 and we're just not getting an offer. I'll usually do like a $10,000 to $15,000 price improvement if I have to. But what I'll do in that instance is I'll look at what else the buyers are shopping against, right? Couple other things that I do early on when I meet a seller, I'm gonna put them on an auto drip from the MLS or whatever service you use for your buyers. I'm gonna put them on one for their neighborhood. And I'm gonna CC myself. So I have about 45 sellers probably that are on auto drips that are gonna sell in the next 1 to 5 years. And what that does is it teaches them the market and it teaches me the market at the same time. And they pretty much already know what their house is worth after they've seen that. I mean, every once in a while, they're gonna be like, well, I'm better than the neighborhood, and when they say they're better than the neighborhood, go show them the comps. In Virginia, that. Whatever this one, but, so yeah, go tour houses with them. And they're gonna be like, yeah, I don't need this. Or when you're not trying to get someone to paint, go show them the comp that's freshly painted. Because they need to see it just like the buyers will see it. And if you're a heavy buyer agent, use that to your advantage in a listing point. You say, and they say, oh, what are your sales like, or whatever. And you say, hey, well, you know what, I don't have a lot of listings, but what I do is I tour buyers around and I know what they like, so I can help you.
I saw the videos of my listings, people are listing for me.
You send them videos of your current listings or whatever?
The listing, past listings in that price range, like if it's a horse farm with land,
Yeah.
barns, all of that, and a big house, then that's the ones I sell.
Sure. Yeah, so. Your listings are your resume, right? So they're gonna look you up online, they're gonna see what your website has, see what you've listed, so this is very similar to that. The best marketing strategy is a good looking house at the right price. And so I'm sure all of you guys have gone to your coworker and been like, I don't know, this seller that we just don't have an offer, and they're asking me what I'm gonna do to market their house, and I just don't know what to do. Do you have that guy that does the videos and the stuff? Well, you don't have to do anything of that. If you price it right at the beginning, you get multiple offers, or you knock it out of the park. Those are things that happen when you haven't done your job right at the beginning. And then they're going, well, what else are you gonna do? You put an ad on in the blah, 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 and you're like, I don't really get fired from that, but okay. So now I'm just wasting my money just making my seller happy. But really, if you do your job right at the beginning, explain what you need to do to be the best house, then you don't have to have those conversations later. So the best marketing is a good looking home at the right price. The other thing is, like, I don't do a lot of video or to start just because agents want it.
I couldn't sell them, but that's video.
We can't do drones, we're in the no fly zone, stuff like that, so like, it's a little bit different. And of course, that's what you have to do, but the thing is like, as an agent. Yes, every once in a while, I can bring a new buyer into the market from video or whatever. But I'm not single-handedly bringing in the buyer pool for that house. Right? I'm not.
No,
creating
no,
the-
but I will say, like, if you're selling a horse farm here.
Yeah.
You have to touch their heart
Totally.
for them to get on a plane and fly all the way across the country to look at one property.
That's in our market, and I don't know how it is, I don't know, it's all say work from here, but
They have to be in love with it before they can get on.
especially if they're coming from out here, 100%. But typically, on our listings, we're not just going and inventing a bunch of buyers. They're already existing in the market.
Mhm.
And that's where that pricing strategy against what they're looking at is very important. And explain this to the seller too, and say, well, that seller said that they're gonna have a YouTube commercial, or that listing agent said, I'm gonna have, like, okay, that's great. And they're gonna have maybe, you know, a pipeline of buyers, but the likelihood of them buying your house is very low. They're just really looking for more clients, right? Yeah, so we need to appeal now to the buyers that are in the market shopping now, right? That's our biggest goal. And so that's why having that pricing discussion twice is really, really important. The other thing I brought, probably this I'll pass around as well. So this is our listing packet. I used to have a listing packet that we would print with like 19 pages and have all this information, and then I realized A, that we were going through a lot of ink, but B, that the printer would never be done in time before I have to leave the appointment, so I would be like, all right, well, I have what I have, let's go. And it was just a headache, and then I would never even pull it out of my bag. Because no one wants to be like, and then the KWLS system is going to the blah, blah, blah. We're not, like, that's not what the sellers all talk about. We either like, I used to literally say, well, here's my listing packet, and if you can't sleep at night, you can read it. And that's all I would do with it. Because it was overwhelming, it was cumbersome, I really want that. So I cut it down to a Bible brochure. And so on this side, it has a list of services. It's average days on market, average list of sale price, how many homes you sold. Then I've got my renovate calculator and staging programs. And then I have, the reason I have like these home buying websites, because they want to know that their house is going on all of those. It's not because, like, Rifkin's a big brokerage in our area, and we compete against them. I have them on my listing packet, but the seller wants to know that their listing is going to that website. Right? So I have to make sure that they understand that I'm going to market their house better, or just like any other agent at any other brokerage. And then it's got like QR code to our reviews, and it's got some of our rewards at the bottom, and then like I said, I run a big team. So instead of printing them all out for every agent, we actually made a spot where they can glue their business card to it. So they brand it to themselves. That's one of those. Let's see. So the other thing that I do that really wins sellers over is I describe who their buyer is. So in your instance, you can easily describe, hey, our most likely buyer owns a horse farm in another area, and they're looking to expand or move here or do whatever. So like Alexandria, Old Town Alexandria, popular city where I'm from. The buyer's moving from a condo in DC. They're looking for more space. They don't have kids. They're a young couple, probably professionals, 2 government jobs. They used to have jobs, now they don't, whatever. Sorry. But that's who the buyer is. They're probably 30 years old. They don't have kids yet. Like, I'm literally going through who the buyer is. And so when I truly understand who's going to buy this house, and I explain to the seller who's going to do that, someone says, hey, you know what? It's great that the other listing agent that you're interviewing is going to do a mailing in the neighborhood, but they're actually just looking for the next seller.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to go have, you know, my agent circuit prospecting all the renters in KC that might be looking to move to Old Town Alexandria. And they're like, you're doing it right, and they're not. Okay, so just pick the creative things that you can kind of put a twist on, or know that they're gonna say, hey, you know, you have a single family house in Haymarket, Virginia, which is about 45 minutes outside the city. That buyer is 37 or 39 years old. They've got 2 school-age kids. They're moving from their townhouse in Fairfax that they moved from their condo in DC or Arlington. So I'm like explaining who is going to be our buyer, and it's really cool when it actually happens. Then the seller's like, man, you know what you're talking about. But you can find out that info pretty easily, but a lot of agents don't talk about it. So then you're going to talk about how you're going to market to those people. And then they're like, they've never heard that. All they hear about is, well, you're going to get it just sold and it's just listed and not only do open house, all of those things, right? Let's see here. I do ask the seller what, like, if I'm not the first interview, even if I'm the first interview, I'm going to ask them what the other agents told them their house is worth. Then, what's the price you have in mind? And sometimes I will get the answer that says, well, that's why you're here. And then I laugh about it, and I'm like, yeah, you're right, we'll get to that, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes they tell me, and I literally just earned gold. I know where their mindset is at. And I'm able to either support them in that, oh my gosh, actually, I was thinking the exact same thing, and here's my cost, let me tell you why. Or, okay, well, how did you get that price, and let's talk about it. I'm like, well, Ripon said, so actually I have Ripon printed out right here, and Ripon says blah, blah, or Zillow says this. And let me tell you, if you use Cloud CMA, Cloud CMA has a page that talks about how the online estimates vary. So sometimes the Cloud CMA page will say like 25%. And I'm like, well, let me talk about online values and why. And in your neighborhood, they vary up to 25%. And then I can talk them through the actual price. So that's a good tool as well. There's also in RPR, there's a seller's report that shows how much over or under list price people get between 30 days, 60 days, and 90 days. And most often in our market, if it's 0 to 30, it's above the listing price. And then there's a pretty drastic drop after. So I'm able to use that chart to say they need to be here, not here. So if you have a data-driven person or an analytic person, bringing those charts, being able to explain what's happening will help you. Let's see. Yeah, again, don't feel like you have to give them the number. So I always say like, hey, this is my first time in your house. I would hate to just tell you the wrong thing and then we're not on the same page. Let me go back and just validate my data and like take it all in and I'll get back to you on that. And they're okay with it, they don't expect you to know everything. They don't expect you, they just want you to get back to them. Sometimes at an open house, they're like, how old's the roof? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll get back to you, what's your phone number? And then I get back to them and they're like, you said what you, I didn't, the roof is, I just wanted the phone. Yes.
So you do, ask them to sign the seller's agreement with the to be determined price range?
If we're all on the same page and like, I might do an amendment later if the market changes or we need to be like competitive against another listing or something. But I do try to put a listing price in there. But if I just don't have one or we haven't agreed like I'm also choosing that I'm wanting to work with them at that point too, which is really important. So I don't want to sign that agreement and then we're not gonna get on the same page. Yeah, so I'll also tell them when it comes to pricing is like, you know, especially if they're like, well, so-and-so told me that they could get this, I'm like, well, neither them or I are gonna single-handedly make up the price for your house. The market's gonna determine the price for your house at the end of the day. And then I do talk to them about how I want to enter into a winning relationship and I don't want to let you down.
No.
I'd rather be upfront with you now than you'll be mad at me in 6 months and I didn't sell your house. Wouldn't you agree? So I'm gonna be upfront and honest. There's often a lot of situations where the seller, this is like a lot of like little scripts of tips and tricks kind of thing. So there's a lot of times where a seller's like, well, I will not take less than X amount for my house, or it takes stands, right? And what I do to kind of break that, I'm like, hey, first and foremost, like, you don't have to talk in absolutes to me. We don't have to make absolute statements now. This is gonna be a collaboration, and we're gonna talk through why or why not, why or why not you might get that price or whatever. But let's take out all the absolute statements. We don't have to talk.
That's a good plan.
Sometimes I use it in everyday life too. But it breaks that. It breaks that. I'm like, hey, you don't have to tell me your bottom line. We don't have to talk in absolutes. Let's just talk about the strategy and get on the same page. And then when we get an offer, we can really talk about how that will work. And then I say like, hey, some agents are gonna overprice your house just to earn your business. And I'm not that agent, so if you're looking for that agent, go ahead, but that's not me. I want to enter into a relationship that we're both gonna be happy at the end of the day. This is how I support my family, this is how I make money, I'm not gonna just spend my money just because. So if I'm gonna invest my money into your house, I know we're gonna have a successful transaction at the end of the day. You just tell them, I'm literally gonna be spending my own money. How are no one's giving any money? They think that they do. They think you get some sort of budget to market their house. You tell them, I'm taking that out of my pocket. So I'm not gonna spend my money if I know I'm not gonna get a return on my investment. I want to sell houses, that's what I do for a living. I mean, not that I don't have to have that conversation all the time, but I will. I'll play hard to get and they'll come begging me at the end of the day. Because they're like, oh, she knows what she's talking about. Which goes back to what I said at the beginning of script role playing.
Yeah.
So same thing with comps, like if I have a net sheet in my pocket or my bag. And it's not right, or it's not what they think, don't pull that up. Follow up with that later. Do not, just because you brought it and prepared for it, do not use it. You're like, and this is what we do, and don't do that. Be able to really mold the appointment to what you need to accomplish and what you need to talk about, and don't just do what you have always done. Because you'll step into a big pile of mud and be like, oh, I don't know why I brought this net sheet for $250, but your house is clearly worth $350, and they'll be like, well, they'll remember that, and they will know that you only think your house is worth X amount of money, or whatever. So I do them in ranges, I do them pretty wide ranges actually, especially when I've never seen a house. And then they tell them like, you know, you're entering into a relationship for the next few months. So what I want you to focus on, this is when like somebody's interviewing. What I want you to focus on is who you want to be in a relationship with. Not who told you the highest price, not who told you all the fancy things they're gonna be doing. We're all gonna hire a professional photographer. We're all gonna do staging, we're all gonna do these things. You know, I can call so-and-so photography just like so-and-so can. But we're gonna be entering into a relationship, and so I really want you to think about that when you're making your choice. And usually, if you've built that rapport with them, that usually makes them feel really good. And then I'm a team. So I do get some objections on like, well, am I gonna be handed off to the next person, or if I, you know, do I get you? And I do work my clients, like I'm very high touch with my clients and I don't hand them off. I do work with some of the agents on my team sometimes. But I also sometimes use like a restaurant analogy. I'm like, so do you want the host cooking your meal? Like I'm the head chef. And I have people that will do other things for us. But you want me negotiating and answering my phone, is that right? That's what you want me to do, okay, yeah, great, so my marketing person's gonna do this. And so you can play that analogy to your strengths, and if you're a single agent, you can tear me apart all day long and say, you know what, that team's just, they're just gonna be another number in their books and blah, blah, blah. So find the script that works for you and how you run your business. So like, if you're a single agent, you can tear me, you can interview against a team all day long, and you got a ton to say to why that might not be the best thing for them, but I know I have what works for me on my end. Let's see. So I do also, I interview against a lot of Compass agents that try to do the private exclusives. And so I believe that is the worst possible thing for a seller to do, personally. Just apparently so does Redfin and Zillow. They just came on and said it. So in my opinion, the private exclusives is really, they're testing out prices, and they're usually honestly get more contingencies, or they don't even get what they want. So it sounds like, I had a Sotheby's agent I was interviewing against recently. When I was there on a follow-up call, or she was there when I follow-up call. I don't know, I was just like, you should have done this. But they were like, well, that agent said they're gonna sell it, we don't have to prep the house, we don't have to do this, we don't have to do that, and they're gonna bring us a buyer before we actually need to sell and all these things. I said, well, okay, if that's what you feel good about, like I understand, but are you gonna be okay not knowing what you actually could have gotten for your house? And they're like, yeah, probably not. I'm like, yeah, you're always gonna wonder what all the buyers, if they saw your house, would bring you, then we should probably do it the right way. Let's work together today. Because I'll tell you, very, very rarely is a seller okay not knowing what the open market will bring, especially in our market. We do get on almost block situation. I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands over list price.
She just got me 65.
Yeah. The commission. So when people ask, what do we charge? So prior to the lawsuit or something, I used to split the number in half automatically. Or whatever proportion, right? So they're like, what do you charge? I used to tell them what I charged anyway.
I don't negotiate
Well, that's fine, it's your business choice. I
at all.
I'm the best I've done 51 sales with, and I take about 1.5%.
I don't sell as many a year though. I sell bigger, they're big properties, but.
So the business is you gotta choose how you wanna do your business. And for me, when somebody asks me to negotiate, I kind of throw it back on them and say, you know what? I might have to decide if I wanna work with you or not. Like, if we're cool and we have a great relationship and they want 0.25%, 0.5% or whatever, and I know that house is gonna sell that weekend and I can knock it out of the park, and we're not gonna have an inspection and all of these things, bring it on.
Most of them don't understand that if 6%, that's 3 and 4. And if you tell them, they're like, oh gosh, and then they feel like they're being cheap.
So I used to break it in half, even before something, I would automatically break it in half and say, well, I charge this. I charge 3.5, and I've already kind of gone through a lot of my services and they understand. And we almost act as a GC sometimes, not really we're not doing things that require a license in that way, but just like she said, carpet cleaners show up this time, the handyman's coming here, the painter's this, the new stove is coming in here, blah, blah, blah. And I'm giving timelines of, I gave you so many calendar invites or people showing up at your house, but I'm acting as a project manager. And so once I can explain all those things I'm gonna do, money is only, what's it saying? Money is only an objection or
Money is only an issue in the absence of value.
I think that's our problem. The master over here. So money is only an issue in the absence of value. So if they don't believe you're worth it, or you don't believe you're worth it, then that's not gonna happen, right? And so your business model is not to negotiate, that's fine. My business model is, I wanna be earning money and selling houses I want to sell. So I'm gonna decide if they ask for a discount. Now, fair housing and all these things and the lots, it's like you really should charge the exact same amount every time and then somebody negotiates and stuff like that. Now, if you are gonna negotiate commission, I want to give you some groundbreaking information. There are numbers between 3.5 and 3. There are numbers between 3 and 2.5. Did you know that? So a lot of agents don't know that. They go from 3 to 2.5. Why? I have an agent on my team that learned that very early on, and she all the time, I see all the numbers. She signs listing agreements at 2.95%. So I honestly, if you don't take anything else away, take that away, because you will earn more money by discounting in smaller chunks.
As an office, we average 2.9.
Wow, that's actually really good. Don't be afraid to bring up the elephant in the room, like the price or the commission. It may not always come up naturally, so just put it out there. I mean, if you're confident, whatever. Know if they're ready to sign and ask for the signature. Don't leave that appointment without trying to close, even if they said I got 10 more appointments today. Well, is there something about what you've heard today that makes you want to interview other people? Well, no, okay, let's go ahead and get work. Also,
What did we talk about that you're still looking for from another agent?
yeah. Also, if people have kids, read the room, because you might get their property at 5:30 and their kids are starting to stir crazy and they get to start dinner at bedtime or whatever. Know that you need to wrap that up, and you may not have some sign that you're gonna make another appointment. So every time you leave a listing appointment, whether it's signed or not, set up the next appointment. Do not leave an appointment without telling the other person what's gonna happen next. Or if you haven't decided when you're gonna follow up. And then when you literally do what you said you're gonna do, you earn their trust. Because most agents don't. Most agents don't do that at all. And then, if they are interviewing other people, again, do not leave time for them to sign with someone else. Like you're following up like in the hours. I'm talking about hours. I'm not talking about days. Because if you wait till Monday, they've already signed somebody.
When are you interviewing? Okay, Monday at 5 o'clock. Okay, you probably be done at 6:30? Yeah, okay. Do me a favor, let's have a call at 6:30 to discuss anything we didn't talk about before you make your decision.
Yeah, or hey, will you promise me one thing?
Yes, I would.
Great. Will you promise to talk with me before you sign with anyone else?
Absolutely.
Great. And can we do that Monday at 6?
That'll work.
So I'm the last conversation. And then, if you don't get it, no, if you don't get it. If they haven't signed, I don't remember, that we'll go to U-Haul, get a moving kit, and drop it off to the airport, right now. And they have to use it. Or flowers or whatever, like one that's good for you, but the moving kit works really well, it's like $120. I'll do it every time, but if I know that like, they're gonna start happening or whatever, I'm gonna do that, and then usually like, wow. So my.
Great, thanks.
Alright, well, over time, I'm sorry.
What's in the moving kit?
It's like boxes, tape, bubble wrap.
You just get it at U-Haul
Mhm.
and you can have it delivered.
Yeah, like I have a runner that just does it for me, but you can have it work out good.
It's like $17 to have it delivered to U-Haul.
Yeah. Any questions?
Would you be like able to kind of just show how you start a conversation when you go to a listing appointment?
Yeah, so I'm usually, I'll either be, if I didn't talk to them much before, I'll be like, so why are you here? And then I just get them, I'll say something usually like,
Just humor a lot.
yeah,
A lot of humor.
a lot of humor.
He wants to say.
Yeah, a lot of humor, a lot of just like the kids showing me around, like stuff like that. Or I'm like, hey, great to meet you. You know, I've never been here before, show me your house. But that's my choice, a lot of people start at the dinner table, it really just depends on what you're gonna do. A lot of my value comes from my knowledge, skills and ability. And I do have like other things I bring with our marketing stuff, but like, so I use this packet as.
It's right there, think about it.
So we haven't already get to mark table first.
No.
For decisions are
Where
made.
the family decisions are made.
So I'll put like the listing agreement, the columns, like all the stuff I brought, will put inside the packet. And then I'll use it.
Lenders, but
That's great. Or like their.
Well, one that's in our side, you should put it in there partially,
Yeah.
because you don't.
Stats flyers as well, like, those like every month. I'll have like if I have sales in the neighborhood, or I'll put in like specific things to their equipment inside of, just like as like little one sheets.
Yeah.
I just was wondering, you said there's no listing appointments, get that out of your head.
Yeah.
What are you calling this appointment to them other than just an appointment?
I'd say like, hey, can we come over and talk about your next steps?
Okay, so you're not calling it anything, okay,
Or, hey, I'll see you next Wednesday, blah, blah, blah.
yeah,
And then I don't confirm them.
you just show up.
Cause it, what?
Because I'm a chance to answer.
Cancel.
I never confirmed.
So, it's on 5 days, and they go, actually, Jenny's our dentist, but I think we'll be home and blah, 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 blah.
The real question if Kelly confirms for agent recruiting appointments.
Do I?
Yeah.
Calendly does.
Okay.
It's automated. Yeah,
I
but I don't confirm when I just show up, and sometimes people are like, I forgot you're here, I'm like, well, I'm here, sir.
I schedule on how, I did a thing that said they reschedule, but I don't care, I still be in them.
Yeah.
And if they don't show up, just switch on her, so.
Oh, I'm on. If they don't show my appointment, I'll say that's why you need to meet with me.
Exactly.
Clearly, it's not proceeding,
Time block.
manage your time better, and I'm gonna help you with that.
Yeah, so do you have ISAs or what are your three?
I have an in-person ISA and a virtual ISA, and then a VA that backs them both up.
Okay.
Yeah. And they handle mostly incoming leads, but they will prospect others, and then they do a lot of database management, and they will, so they'll kind of nurture enough, hopefully to the appointment, but if they feel like, so for example, if there's a neighborhood that's that a lead comes in on, that an agent on our team just sold a listing in there, and then maybe they haven't gotten the appointment yet, they'll tell that agent, hey, I want you to go door knock and drop off a packet and a handwritten note or whatever at this address, and then they kind of work together with the agent to convert.
And are you finding a lot more listings in your area because of the political environment?
No.
Or is it about the same?
Yes and no, so we're about 50% over March over March last year in inventory, however, that's only half a month's supply. So that all the keyboard warriors out there that said DC is everybody's listing their house. We could use 2 more months of inventory and still sell through it.
Wow.
So yeah, 50% of not a whole lot.
So I have a listing in the neighborhood a couple weeks ago that is like not in the school district neighborhood. And so it's a little bit tougher when you have worse schools, especially on, it was like a single family full of 5,000 square feet, so it was like a big family home. And I had a listing go on a week before we were gonna list, and I was like, oh, competition. And very similar, they actually had a really great backyard, we had a big hill, like we had some things that were not so great, but mine was like prepped and obviously a little bit better marketing. And we ended up getting 2 offers, I got 75,000 over with no contingencies, and they are still on the market. And then if you call me, he's like, what happened, or why did you do, or how did that happen? And most of it really just has to do with the bracket pricing, they were priced a little above us, and not far though. They're priced at 1,225 and we were at 1,2 even. And we went to 1,275. And then the other part of it was like so they were built in like, I want to say 2002. we went through and changed out all the gold ceiling fans. I mean, it was like maybe $800. We changed out all the gold ceiling fans to like modern, they're black, they match some like stuff that the sellers have updated themselves. And like a couple like fixtures. And it changed the whole house. And they had like the golden chandelier in the back. It's little stuff, guys.
We spent 57,000 getting my house ready, and my house was fine before, but it wasn't good. Like, we painted the kitchen cabinets and looked brand new, new countertops, re-glazed the tile floor, we didn't replace it, we don't replace anything but the countertops. And all the fixtures, fans,
So
the lights, outlet covers, painted.
let me show you, yeah. Well, maybe I'll do this.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't buy a single family home in our market for.
We listed for
It's
1.4, so the amount that we spent, and then. Yeah, so can you pull up 5820 Fitzy Street? Do you mind? To pull that. FITZ. HUH. Street. So. Yeah, it's a really cool house here, can I see? Okay, so. This is her kitchen. But, let me see if this is it. Yeah. Hold on, this is right. Can you see the oldest one? Okay, so. This is the listing from when she bought it. That was the kitchen.
Major difference.
So this,
Yeah, that was the kitchen before. We spent, what, 18,000 in the kitchen, including a appliance bill. I don't remember exactly how much.
okay, so.
The biggest thing is I didn't do anything. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Right, so.
Scandals, I was like, I don't care.
So there you go.
And she had all that contractors, right? Like, so I didn't have to call anybody.
Which street are you gonna buy?
Right. Look at the photo difference too.
So like, I know what buyers want in our market, and honestly, I can't predict exactly what would happen.
I'm not glad I didn't do that 8 years ago. I'm glad I did
Until like 2 months ago. So I put cords on, so what's so funny is every single person I showed this picture to said, oh my god, you have to get rid of that backsplash. I said,
Thing one, isn't it?
I said, no, I'm gonna leave it, and they're like, not gonna drop the backsplash.
Hard to it's coming back.
Not in our market.
No.
It is in our area, it's just starting, but they're all talking.
That's the same kitchen, we didn't replace any cabinets. We didn't change the layout.
The lighting is bigger.
Yeah. We didn't change the recessed lights.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so. Like,
There were appliances.
We did put a pretty high-end stove in, and we have replaced the other appliances since in the 8 years, yeah.
And that backyard's
Big
beautiful.
collar too. Yeah, we call it the mullet house.
yeah,
Party in the back?
yeah.
Cause you have no idea from the street, like all the neighbors that came in were like, we had no idea this house had all this.
Yeah.
She also, like, when we bought this house together, she was like, I'm not paying for that house in that neighborhood,
Yeah,
until you walk in it, and then we bought it.
but like, do you wanna buy this master bedroom or this? Like,
And all that was staging.
that was staging, oh, the bedroom set existed, but this is all staging. Yeah, we did paint it slightly different color.
Yeah,
What does it cost you to go through and do all the light bulbs that you said?
a couple windows.
Amazing what light.
look at the dining room.
Yeah.
So this was a new light fixture. And that was it. Oh, we did refinish the hardwood floor.
But that, So yeah, all that is a different table, extra difference, that light fixture is $120.
Lighting up the floor, you can too.
The floors just needed to be refreshed with,
What color are the bottom cabinets? Are they green?
green, they're like a greenish gray. That was actually a great idea. I think we'll keep it in our repertoire, but that's staging, we made a good.
Oh, that room had no lighting, go up.
Which room? Oh, yeah, we put recessed lights in this room.
This room had no lights, there was no fan or anything, I actually had
That's
that
that
room.
room.
Oh, it is better.
So like, which house would you rather buy?
I'd buy either of them.
Boring is the same.
So we did, they did finish and we made them a little bit lighter. Yeah. But not a lot, and it's, these
So
are.
did you do the one on the wall?
16.
What's that? The one on the left, is that the you?
This is the same room, we bought this house, this is
It
what
looked like it there, okay.
that's,
Yeah, that's the original listing for when we bought it, that's what it looks like right now.
But we did change up a few things over the years, but the majority of this work was done to prep the house for sale.
Yeah.
And so this is why her house did not have a home inspection,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see what I'm saying?
makes sense.
Yeah, so like, which den would you like to live in?
Oh, that den looks good.
But it's the same room, there's no difference.
The carpet, but we did that.
Oh,
it's over.
If you change the room, it's 18 years ago.
No,
What's farmers?
No, it's the carpet.
so hopefully the buyers knew that.
It's the exact same carpet.
Yeah, that fireplace needs a new, but hey, we don't have an inspection.
I'm curious what y'all call this, that sand, that's color, because the stone that looks like that here is called, it's Rockcastle. Sand.
I have no idea, I would never call it anything, because I don't want to put it in. So that's the master bedroom,
Just curious, like,
so like this staged bed. Right? And then just like the angles of like what you can do in the room, we changed out the ceiling fan. I mean, honestly, this was the old seller's furniture, so like, that's her furniture, we didn't do anything with that, we put a bench in, we changed out the ceiling fan.
Paint the whole house, the
We painted
pale gray.
we painted it like 6 years ago.
Yeah, we painted it like in. Yeah, we painted it,
So in these, okay, so this bathroom,
all we did was change the countertop.
that's not the same bathroom, but hold on.
Yeah.
This old list is not a lot of pictures, but, okay,
Well, that's the same countertop, the only thing we did in the bathroom was change the fixture to the brushed nickel from that color and change the countertop. And reglaze the top, cause it was like yellow.
yeah, so this was basically only countertop, like, we did reglaze it, but we did that a while back too.
Yeah, a new fixture here, new ring, and we glazed the top white.
Oh, this laundry room, okay. So,
The house has 2 laundry rooms, it's the best.
so this laundry room. Obviously, she had done a new washer dryer at some point, but this old yellow laminate. We put LVT tile, it was like $450. And put new lights in, and it's like a brand new room. So like, this is the 80s linoleum that they had left there. And then nothing again, big difference. So I mean, this house, larger price point, a willing seller to follow, the guidance. And sure, it took me 2 months to do it, but like, it paid off.
Yeah.
And how much over this?
65,000. So she got all of her money back that we spent and she's able to go house shopping here with no worries that she has a home inspection going on back home. Can you imagine taking her out to go see houses and she has to worry if the buyer just pulling back down her house? Wouldn't be fun. So this is a little bit about what we do, and I'm not saying we do every listen. Oh, so if we don't, okay, so this is like our option 1. Option 2 is we just like clean it up a little bit, take professional photos, stage it, kind of list it like kind of as it is, whatever, but the price is perfect. 3 is like, if somebody wants to sell as is, we will shop it to our investors, or like, if you know, some people just need like that kind of sale. Option 4 is actually we could buy it from them. So if it's like a fixer upper, corner house or whatever, like we will always make an offer that's usually higher than our investors, because we don't have to pay commission. Or they don't have to pay commission. So we actually offer them better, especially than like when we buy houses or sort of thing, like we can usually give them a higher net. And they're totally fine with that. Not this is totally.
I have 3 of these going on right now and it's wearing me out the heck out.
Yeah.
Alright, you guys go look at us.
Yes, we do.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
You said you sent the paperwork when you go to, before you go to the listing, do you send it mostly filled out and like through something like Dotloop? Or do you just send them
Not always.
examples of the paper?
No, so like,
It's all as an assumptive close that
So-
it tries.
yeah, so like if somebody's like, hey, I'd like to talk to you about selling my house, like what's the next, or what's the first step, I'm like, oh, well, you know what, why don't I do this, I'm gonna send you paperwork, I'll have that squared away, and come over, we're gonna see if everyone's on through.
You
If
send
they
all the
say yes,
paperwork
Yeah,
and just
well,
like
maybe,
the listing and the properties?
yeah. Mhm,
Okay,
mhm.
and you said we'll fill them out later, is that what you just said?
Like, I'll ask them to sign it, DocuSign.
If it's a referral and like a.
Price, you know.
I'll put you,
Oh, okay.
and then I have a signed list agreement before I go to their house.
Girl, you're good. It's very valuable. You see all the pages of no contact?
But if you don't, but like, if you don't think about stuff like that, you're creating objections for yourself. You're putting a barrier in the way. Now, does it work every time? Absolutely not. Does it work for personal friends and repeat clients? Absolutely. But they don't,
And did you learn all these like strategy, like working, or like did you learn it from someone, or like your own experience, how like?
everything. I mean, I definitely spend time to this day, I mean, this is going on in my market.
Yeah.
So I had this much training. Goal, I've done goal like 4 minutes. Yeah.
I've done it like either 11 or 12. I
Yeah.
can do that.
Are we still recording or do we stop?
I just got it.
Stop it. Nice to meet you.
Really.
It was so nice to meet you.